Imagine you are sitting in a small room with 7 other people. A researcher holds up a card with a single line on it, then a second card with 3 lines of obviously different lengths. The question could not be simpler. Which of these 3 lines matches the first one? The answer is obvious. A child could get it right. One line is clearly the match, and the other 2 aren't even close. But then the first person answers, and they pick the wrong line, confidently, out loud. And then the second person picks the same wrong line, and the third, and the fourth. One by one, every single person in the room gives the same answer, and it is plainly, obviously incorrect. Now it's your turn. Everyone is looking at you. You can see the correct answer with your own eyes. So what do you say? You already know what you do. You tell the truth. You'd say the right line calmly because you can see it, and you are not the kind of person who just follows the crowd. That's what almost everybody believes about themselves. And in 1951, a psychologist proved that most of them are wrong. His name was Solomon Asch, and that room was his experiment. Here is the trick. In that room of 8 people, 7 of them were not real participants. They were actors working for Asch, and they had been told exactly when to give the wrong answer. Only one person in the room, the one who always answered near the end, was a real subject. Everyone else was there to put them under pressure. For the first couple of rounds, the actors gave correct answers, and everything felt normal. Then, on a planned round, they all began to choose a line that was clearly wrong, and Asch watched to see what the one real person would do. The results were deeply uncomfortable. When people were alone and simply asked to judge the lines by themselves, they got the answer right almost every single time. The task was that easy. Error rates were under 1%. But inside that room, facing a unanimous group giving the wrong answer, everything changed. On average, people caved and went along with the obviously incorrect group answer about 1/3 of the time. And it goes deeper than an average. Around 3 out of 4 people conformed to the group at least once. They sat there, looked at 2 lines that did not match, and said out loud that they did. Only a small minority managed to stay independent the entire way through. And Asch wasn't the first to sense that something like this was there. Years earlier, a psychologist named Muzaffar Sharif had put people in a dark room with a single dot of light that seemed to drift, and watched groups slowly settle on a shared idea of how far it moved, then hold on to that group answer even alone for a long time after. But Sharif's task was genuinely ambiguous. You could argue people were just pooling their best guesses about something impossible to judge. Asch's stroke of genius was to remove every excuse. He made the correct answer so obvious that a child could see it, and still people folded. He also tested how big the group needed to be. 1 actor against you and you barely budged. 2 and the pressure began to build. But once 3 or 4 people all agreed on the wrong answer, the effect hit almost full strength, and piling on more bodies barely changed a thing. It didn't take a mob to break a person. Just a small, unanimous handful was enough to make you doubt your own eyes. So the real question is why? Why would anyone deny what is right in front of their eyes? When Asch asked people afterward, he found 2 very different reasons. Some of them knew the group was wrong. They could see the correct answer perfectly well, but they went along anyway, because the fear of standing out, of being the odd one, of being the single person who disagrees with everyone was simply too strong. They chose to be wrong on purpose rather than feel that exposure. Psychologists call this normative pressure, the need to belong overriding the need to be right. But others said something far more unsettling. They insisted they genuinely thought the group was correct. Under the pressure of all those confident voices, they had started to doubt their own eyes. They assumed that if everyone else saw it differently, the group must know something they didn't. This is called informational pressure. And it means the crowd didn't just change what they said, it changed what they believed they saw. For a long time, that second group was a mystery. Were they really seeing differently or just saying so? Then decades later, scientists put people into brain scanners and ran a version of the same experiment. In 2005, a researcher named Gregory Burns did exactly this, and what he found was genuinely disturbing. When people conformed to a wrong group answer, the parts of the brain that lit up were not the areas for conscious decision-making. They were the areas for vision and spatial perception. In other words, the group pressure wasn't just twisting people's choices. On some level, it appeared to be reaching back into their perception itself, bending the raw image before they ever got to decide any. And there was a second finding even more revealing. When a person did hold out and go against the group, a specific part of their brain fired hard. The amygdala, the same region that handles fear and pain. Standing alone, disagreeing with everyone was not experienced by the brain as a neutral choice. It was experienced as a threat. Breaking from the crowd literally hurt. So here is the part that changes everything. You are not the calm, independent observer you imagine yourself to be. None of us are. Your sense of reality is sealed off inside your own head. It is quietly, constantly negotiating with the people around you. And when enough of them agree on something, your brain will bend first your words, and then sometimes your very perception to match them. But Asch found one more thing, and it is the most hopeful part of the entire story. The spell was fragile. In a version of the experiment, he placed just one other person in the room who told the truth. A single ally who gave the correct answer out loud. And the moment that happened, the pressure collapsed. When people had even one other person standing with them, their conformity dropped dramatically. They found their courage again. One voice. That was all it took. Not a majority, not a movement. Just one other person willing to say what they saw. And suddenly the real subject could too. This is the strange, double-edged truth of the Asch Effect. We are wired to follow the crowd so deeply that it can rewrite what we see. But we are also wired so that a single honest voice can break the whole thing apart. And once you understand this experiment, you start to see it running everywhere. Every viral opinion that everyone suddenly seems to hold, every trend that felt ridiculous last year and normal this year, every crowded room where nobody wants to be the first to object, every comment section where one confident wrong answer pulls 1,000 people behind it. The lines and the cards are gone, but the room is all around you, all the time. You have almost certainly agreed with something this week, nodded along, gone quiet, or held back what you really thought, simply because everyone around you seemed to have already decided. Not because you were weak, because you are human, running a program that is far older than reason. And this is not a quirk of one time or place. Asch's experiment has been repeated for over 70 years across dozens of countries and cultures, on strangers and friends alike. The exact numbers shift a little, but the core finding never breaks. Put a confident, unanimous group in front of a person, and a large share of them will quietly abandon the evidence of their own senses. It is one of the most reliable and most humbling discoveries in the entire history of psychology. So the next time you find yourself in a room, real or online, where the group has settled on an answer and something in you quietly disagrees, remember Solomon Asch and those simple lines on a card. Remember that the crowd can bend, not just your voice, but your vision. And remember the other half of what he discovered, that it only takes one person to break the spell. And that person can be you.